What's up guys? Today we're going to check out The Creator on 4K UHD. I'm not here to talk about how good or bad the movie is, I'm just going to share some of my thoughts on the audio and video quality. Now let's go over a few tech specs. The movie was shot in 4K. It's got a 4K DI. It's rated PG-13. Runtime is 133 minutes. Aspect ratio is 276:1, and the audio is in Dolby Atmos. Before we take a look at the audio and see how active this mix is, if you don't know what the Atmos viewer is, you can find a link down below in this video's description that tells you all about it, what it does, and where to get it. You can also find a list of all the gear that I use for these 4K reviews down there as well. Now jumping over to the Atmos viewer, we can see that this is a full-on dynamically active Atmos mix. If you've got a system with more than 11 channels, this movie will use every single one of them. Here at 8 minutes in, you can see that every channel is lit up with some very atmospheric background effects. It's basically environmental sounds and some musical extension, and it remains this way for almost the entire duration of the movie. So there's almost always something coming out of all of your speakers, which is cool because we all want our speakers to do something at all times, don't we? But after a while, it does feel kind of like they just put sounds everywhere just to do it. It wasn't like there was clever intentional usage in the same way that those Quiet Place movies do it. I didn't hear, for example, anyone creeping up in the back left speaker or hear choppers flying over my head, even though it was on screen flying over my head. So the placement of sound isn't always following exactly what's going on screen. Now there are actual flyovers that do sound convincing at about 1 hour and 37 minutes in, and there are times when Nomad, that gigantic ship, would fly through the overheads and drop bombs down to the lower channels, which all sounded great. There's also a bunch of tanks that go on a full assault at 1 hour 22 minutes in, which you can hear those tanks through various channels and gunshots being fired in different parts of the room. As for bass response, in that same tank scene, there was some decent low-end rumble, but for the most part, well, most of the action parts, I felt that bass was kind of a letdown. It didn't hit as hard as I was expecting it to, and explosions didn't have too much weight. And there are some really intense action moments in this movie. That said, the dialogue remained fully intelligible from start to finish. I want to send a thank you to Kaleidoscape for supplying me with this copy of The Creator to bring you, the home theater movie-loving community, this 4K review. Now, if you are interested in grabbing a Kaleidoscape, you can get one at our channel partner, Dream Media. Links can be found down below in this video's description. As for video quality, I opted to review the Kaleidoscape version because their file comes in at 76 gigs, whereas the physical media disc version comes on a 66 gig disc. So there is less compression on the Kaleidoscape version than there is on the disc. If you're watching this on a large enough display, you'll notice that the image and also the grainy structure is a bit tighter and cleaner on the Kaleidoscape version. I'd say on maybe an 85-inch or smaller television set, you probably won't notice the difference between the two. But like I said earlier, there is digital film grain added to this movie. And if you are a grain hater, there is a pretty good chance you're gonna hate the way that this transfer looks, because it's pretty heavily used throughout the entire movie. Now I know this could have looked digitally crispy and clean because I'm using this exact same camera right there to shoot this video, so I know exactly what this camera is capable of. It's the Sony FX3. But with a combination of anamorphic lenses that were used in the movie, which will create a softening around the outer edges of the image, and with the digital grain added in, you get a really wide aspect ratio with big letterbox bars if you're watching on a TV or a 16:9 display. Also, there's going to be some black bars on a scope screen. So if you are bothered by that, then you're definitely going to be bothered by this transfer. Now this was obviously an artistic choice going with the added digital grain, but it is something that I personally did like. I felt that it gave the image kind of a very filmic quality to it. Now, I did find that black levels do come across kind of muddy at times during the really dark scenes, so there is a lack of detail in these really dark shots, despite the Sony cameras having class-leading low-light capabilities. And because of the added-in film grain, the CG effects blended in nearly perfectly. The blending of human skin with robotic parts looked super realistic and doesn't distract at any point. As for the HDR, this isn't crazy bright, but there are some nice specular highlights during the nighttime shots. Explosions have some really nice pop, the little tiny reflections, and the lighting also looked fantastic throughout. The color palette, while it is muted, has a kind of a warm look to it, It's mostly darker colors with a lot of blacks, grays, greens, browns, so nothing that's going to be bright and vibrant that's going to really push your display's nit levels. Overall, this isn't going to be a movie that you're going to want to throw in to show off how good your display looks. I do think a lot of folks are going to hate the way it looks because of the digital grain that they added in. But if you look past that and see what they were going for, it is a beautifully shot movie with some amazing CG, all done with equipment that most people can actually afford. It really is impressive from a technical standpoint, so I'm gonna have to go with an 8.7 for video on the Kaleidoscope and an 8.2 on the 4K disc. Audio-wise, this is a full-on immersive experience. I would have liked more discrete placement with the effects, but all of your speakers do have something to do and they are clocked in for a full-time shift with this mix. Although the subwoofers could definitely use a better workout. So I'm gonna go with an 8 for audio. Well, those are my thoughts on the Creator in 4K on the Kaleidoscope and also on 4K Blu-ray. Have you seen it and what'd you think of the transfer? Leave a comment down below and let me know. Now, if you do want to pick up this movie, I'll leave some links for it down below in this video's description. As always, guys, thanks for watching. If you want, you can follow us on social media. And if you want to support the channel and get exclusive content or great discounts on audio and video gear, then stop by our Patreon page. Be sure to like this video if you found it useful and subscribe if you have not already. And I'll see you again in the next video.